Hello, our luxury story today brings us to Zoom with a monument of graffiti. You're born in New York in 1961. You're represented in France by Gallery Wallworks. You are exposed all over the world in global institutions, currently exposed in Italy. I guess we will talk a little bit about that. Um, you are being visible in some of the prestigious auctions in the world with Arcurial or Pierre Berger and Associates for your amazing and recognized, globally acclaimed graffiti work. Bonjour, Sonic Bad.
Hello, Mr. Icon.
Alors,
How are you today?
I'm doing great. How is US today? How is New York today?
US is good. Actually, at the moment, I'm in Pennsylvania. I was in New York last week painting a subway train.
Wonderful. You cannot escape painting subway trains, but we'll come back on that, right?
Okay.
Cool. Alors, tell us about graffiti because not everything started with graffiti. I mean, I think it started with a passion for drawings, correct?
Yes, when I was in once when I got into school, I got into drawing right away. But before I went to school, my older brother used to be in so many different things, and he was a, a collector of comic books. He had the first Spider-Man. He was into Marvel comic books, so he had the first Incredible Hulk, Fantastic Four. So he used to have these comic books, and I used to say, "Can I see them?" But he wouldn't let me touch them. So that was a big inspiration towards my art, beginnings.
Cool. Alors, very quickly, you will move into graffiti, and you like to say, by the way, I'm not a street artist. I'm a graffiti man, right?
Yeah, I'm not really a street artist because I consider myself a graffiti writer in the beginning because we just wrote. It wasn't really considered art because what was told to you that's not art, it's vandalism.
Mhm.
But by accident, I guess I became a graffiti artist because I stopped doing it. I stopped doing vandalism and I started doing it on canvas.
Okay, cool. And very quickly, you're gonna create your own style, and this is something we are very interested in. Tell us a little bit how Sonic Bad became a prominent graffiti maker by bringing his own creative style. Tell us a little bit what you did.
Well, what happened is in the beginning, when I got into it, what got me into graffiti is that my parents separated. So we moved from Coney Island, Brooklyn, into Far Rockaway, Queens, where that was the first time I would take the subway train. And when I took the subway train, I noticed that there was scribble on the subway train. I never seen it before. And I thought it was pretty exciting to see scribbling traveling on a subway train because I didn't know how they did it. I didn't know what it was. And I thought it looked pretty dangerous and at the same time cool because I'm thinking that these guys rode on the train while the trains were moving, like hanging on the side and painting on them. I didn't know. That's how I got into graffiti. And when I got into graffiti, it was the very beginning where it was pretty much no art work involved in the sense that there were no characters, no backgrounds. It wasn't as big as it became because we're talking about 1969 when graffiti was very limited to what they were doing at the time. It was just the beginning of the subway, what I call subway graffiti.
So by that time, you were pretty much 8 years old, correct?
Pretty much 8, 9 years old, was already curious and wanting to know what it was. So I asked my older brother, "What is this stuff?" Because my brother's 10 years older than me, and he said to me, he says, "Listen, don't don't think about it. Don't look at it. It's not good. It's bad. It's dangerous. You can get arrested. it's against the law, or even worse, you can get killed. So I said to myself, I said, wow, that's something I want to do.
It's because that was forbidden that you got interested,
It
correct?
was so forbidding that it was something that it actually, those words actually pushed me in the direction to learn more about it. Yeah. And
Okay.
from there, I didn't know anybody. I was from Far Rockaway, Queens, which that's pretty much the suburbs of New York City, because it was right on the borderline of Long Island. And Long Island had beautiful houses and middle class families. And coming from Coney Island, Brooklyn, it was more where you see gangs gangs was just coming out. You see stolen cars, burning, and a lot of people hanging out and fighting. And when I moved to Rockaway, Queens, it was more laid back, more of the beach, more small houses, and a lot of kids riding their bicycle through the streets, which you didn't see too much of that in Coney Island, Brooklyn. It was pretty much more dangerous in Brooklyn.
Okay. So very quickly, the idea came in your mind to go back to the real city, right?
My thought in my mind was I took Brooklyn with me to Queens, but then after a while, I realized that no matter where you are, there are going to be people that are more tougher than you. Because I came out of Brooklyn thinking I'm from Brooklyn, I'm a tough kid, you know what I mean? But and then you come to Queens and you realize there's tough kids there too. So I took part of Brooklyn, the attitude with me to Queens, and I guess in the going from here, going from Brooklyn to Queens, I started learning more about the graffiti.
Cool. And very quickly, you're gonna try to bring something new into the graffiti that were existing. So I'd like you to tell us a little bit about what is it that you do to go further than, the letters that usually street artists were using.
Well, I have some pictures here I can show you. See, like this is when I started getting into it. This was in the early 70s. So you can see the style.
Yeah.
It was very rough and flat and pretty much no 3D. And it has one arrow coming out of it. And this piece coming on top is like I don't know, it's like an arm or a clamp coming around. And then I have this arrow. This is the designs from the early 70s. A design, it says, look. You're pointing an arrow saying, look at my name. And then I had a spray can, which is like, this is like when the characters was coming out in graffiti, when they started using different like magic markers and tools that we use, they turned them into characters. So that was my character of a spray can. So from there, it was more about battling the next graffiti artist. That's how the evolution of style began. When one writer tried to be better than another writer in the sense that they can make a better letter. So the letters started becoming more technical. So, and then this, for example, this is a train that I did on a train, which it has more arrows, and then it has like a scoop, like a shovel, in the ground, and it has the skull. And then over here it has like a Pink Panther investigator with the hat on. So, and then over here has like a spoon. So these were different styles that were being developed from competing against other graffiti writers that were doing the similar style.
So bringing in a way some human figures and decors into your graffiti, correct?
Yes, and then I started trying to develop something different that nobody used before. So I developed the ribbon letters,
Mm-hmm.
and this was in the 70s as well, which the letters will wrap around, and it looks sort of like a scroll.
Yeah.
And I had it going throughout the letters, and I started making these whips coming around to make it different than the other graffiti artists, to compete and to blend the colors from one color into another and so on. And
this is what we call the wild style folding letters also.
well, that was the beginning of it. That was the beginning. And I started doing this is in the 70s as well, where I started making the letters like wrapping around each other and coming interlocking, coming out and coming from one side all the way to the other. Like the I, it'll shoot through the C, and then the I will come through here and go straight into the S. So I try to spread the letters out to make it bigger. So what happened is that my letters became too big, so I started scrolling them and bending them. And that's where the folding letters began, which is, I don't have any pictures here. But this is basically what I started creating, which is pretty technical and it's harder to read. But these letters, if you unfold them, they wouldn't fit on the paper. They'll be so big that so the graffiti is larger than it is. So that was my point, is that my style is bigger than your style in a sense that it's not flat, it's not just 3D coming out, but it's huge. It can stretch across a whole subway train, or even across a whole building or a handball court, or it depends how many times I fold the letter. So yeah, this is like other style. This is pretty much a simpler style, which it shows the S, which it folds backwards, and then the other letters would sometimes it would connect. The O is usually by itself. It's folded and pushed in between the S and the N. So you see the O right here. This is the S.
Yeah.
This is the N.
Yeah.
And then the I is usually crazy because it'll connect onto the C, and sometimes it'll go all the way through from one end of the piece to the other end. So that's pretty much similar to what I was doing in the 70s, in the sense that the letters was going from one end to the other, but it wasn't folding yet. So what I basically did is took this style and started folding it. And I just kept going with it, and different style, sometimes I use the arrow, sometimes I don't. This one is kind of crazy. But the style, what it means is, when you have style like this, and it's not that it's just a bunch of lines all over the place. No, all these lines are connected. They fold, they go back around, they're connected. A lot of graffiti writers, they make their letters and then they have stuff going all over the place where it doesn't make any sense because it's not connected anywhere. But I'm pretty much like a genius in graffiti lettering, because whichever direction I want it to go, I can bring it to that direction, or bring it back, or put the letter behind, or put the letters behind, or put another letter in front of it, and so on and so on.